off because I took my credit card off because I found out that Towanda has been using my credit card to pay her phone bill.
Nobody was ready for this. Not the fans, not the family. Not even the lawyers scrambling behind closed doors as the whispers turned into sirens. Because overnight, the internet didn't just wake up to drama. It woke up to a full-blown celebrity. Implosion that feels too wild to be real. And yet, the receipts are allegedly screaming otherwise. Sources claim Tamar Braxton didn't just snap, she detonated. And this time the fallout isn't happening on reality TV, Instagram Live, or a shady tweet. It's happening in court. What started as a quiet bank alert allegedly spiraled into the most explosive family betrayal the Braxtons have ever faced. A credit card, multiple cities, luxury charges Tamar swears she never made. And one name that keeps surfacing like a ghost, she can't escape her own sister. Insiders say Tamar sat frozen, staring at her statement, her hands shaking as the total climbed higher and higher. Beverly Hills, Miami, Atlanta, thousands gone. And then came the discovery that reportedly made her scream. The spending trail didn't lead to a hacker. It led home. Phones started buzzing. Group chats went dead. Lawyers were called before apologies. And within hours, the story leaked. Not by accident, but because someone wanted the world to know Tamar was done protecting people who kept hurting her. Social media erupted into chaos, fans choosing sides before sunrise, bloggers racing to confirm what no one wanted to believe, a lawsuit between sisters, accusations of theft. Betrayal wrapped in blood ties, and just when you think this is about money, insiders warn, this is about something far darker. Years of silence, buried resentment, and a breaking point Tamar may never come back from. The moment Tamar allegedly realized the charges weren't a mistake, everything shifted. Sources say she didn't cry at first. She went silent. It's the kind of silence that scares assistants, freezes managers, and makes rooms feel too small. Courting. To an insider who claims they were there, Tamar kept scrolling through her banking app over and over. As if the numbers might change if she stared long enough. They didn't. Each swipe revealed another hit. Another city she hadn't visited. Another luxury purchase she hadn't approved. And the deeper she went, the clearer it became that this wasn't random. This was intentional, calculated, personal. Within hours, Tamar's inner circle was activated. Her financial advisor allegedly flagged a pattern that sent chills through the room. Small charges at first, spaced out strategically under the radar. Then bigger ones. It's a sweet upgrade here. A boutique swipe there. All charged to the same card Tamar had used for years, the one she guarded like a vault. The advisor reportedly asked one question that made Tamar's stomach drop. Did you authorize anyone else on this account? Tamar's answer was immediate. No, never. Not now. Not ever. That's when the digital trail allegedly started telling its own story. Its receipts tied to an email Tamar didn't recognize. Shipping confirmations going to an Atlanta address she knew by heart. An address she had once helped pay for. Insiders say Tamar stood up so fast her chair slammed into the wall when the name connected to the address appeared on the screen. Towanda, her sister. The room went quiet. Someone whispered, "No way." Tamar didn't respond. She allegedly grabbed her phone and walked out, locking herself in her dressing room, shaking. What happened next is being described as the confrontation that shattered everything. Sources claim Tamar called Towanda directly. No cameras, no producers, no filters. Just raw fury and disbelief. At first, Towanda allegedly laughed it off, asking why Tamar sounded so worked up. Then came the denial. Then the deflection. And finally, according to someone familiar with the call, the sentence that flipped a switch Tamar could never unflip. "Why are you acting brand new?" "You know, I'd never do you like that." Tamar allegedly screamed back, then explained the charges. Silence followed. Not guilt, not shock. Silence. Minutes later, a text allegedly came through. Short, dismissive. Cold, it read like permission that was never given. Like entitlement, dressed up as sisterhood. That message, insiders say, is when Tamar realized this wasn't a misunderstanding. It was a boundary that had been crossed repeatedly because no one thought she'd ever push back. And that realization hurt more than the money. Tamar had reportedly been helping Towanda quietly for months, covering expenses, smoothing things, over believing she was supporting family, not funding a lifestyle behind her back. As Tamar's team began digging deeper, the story allegedly got uglier by the hour. Charges tied to dates when Towanda had posted smiling selfies online. A luxury car rental appearing the same week Towanda filmed content bragging about new beginnings. A spa bill surfacing just days after Tamar had paid for a family dinner meant to mend old wounds. Each new receipt felt like a slap. Insiders say Tamar kept asking the same question through tears and rage. Why didn't she just ask me? No one had an answer. Then came the leak that changed the tone from family drama to legal nightmare. Someone close to the situation claims Tamar's lawyers uncovered evidence that Towanda may have been added as an authorized user through a backdoor months earlier. Possibly during a management transition, Tamar barely remembers approving. Whether it was a mistake or something more deliberate is still unclear. But to Tamar, the result was the same. Access without consent. Trust without respect. And a sister who allegedly took full advantage of both. The internet didn't know yet. But behind the scenes, Tamar was unraveling. Friends say she had panic attacks so intense she had to cancel meetings. Her phone buzzed nonstop with messages from family members who somehow already knew pieces of the story, all urging her to calm down, to keep it private. To think about the family name. One message reportedly stood out above the rest, sent by someone Tamar expected to protect her. It allegedly read, "Don't make this bigger than it needs to be." Tamar read it and snapped. Bigger than it needs to be. Thousands missing. Trust destroyed. And she was supposed to stay quiet again. By the next morning, Tamar had made a decision that would change everything. She wasn't going to smooth this over. She wasn't going to swallow it. She wasn't going to play the role everyone expected her to play. Sources say she told her legal team to prepare documents, not threats. Filings, not warnings. And when they asked if she was sure, Tamar allegedly replied, "I've been sure my whole life. I was just scared before." That fear was gone. As whispers started spreading among bloggers and industry insiders, Towanda allegedly began telling people a very different version of the story, that Tamar had given permission, that it was all blown out of proportion, that this was another one of Tamar's moments. Those claims, insiders say, are what pushed Tamar over the edge. Because lying publicly while denying privately is a betrayal Tamar says she can't forgive. Not this time by nightfall. The Braxton family group chat reportedly went completely silent after Tamar dropped screenshots into it. No commentary, no explanations, just proof. One family member is said to have exited the chat entirely. Others stopped answering calls. And one person everyone expected to intervene said nothing at all. That silence echoed louder than any argument. As legal paperwork quietly moved forward and the story inched closer to the public. Tamar allegedly recorded a voice memo meant only for herself. In it, she cried, screamed, and whispered the words that haunt this entire situation. "I always pay, I always forgive, and I always take." That memo, according to insiders, exists. And if it ever leaks, it could change how the world sees this family forever. Because just as Tamar thought the worst was over, a new detail surfaced late that night. A charge that didn't fit the pattern. A transaction that suggested planning, not impulse. And when Tamar's team traced where that payment was headed, one name appeared that made every lawyer in the room look at each other in shock. That name changed everything. according to a source who claims they reviewed the internal report. The transaction wasn't for shopping, travel, or self-care. It was a legal service, a consultation fee paid quietly. Weeks before Tamar ever confronted anyone. Which raised a terrifying question no one wanted to ask out loud. If Towanda truly believed she had permission, why was a lawyer already involved? The room reportedly froze as Tamar's legal team stared at the screen. This wasn't panic spending. This looked like preparation. Insiders say Tamar's face drained of color when she heard that detail. But until that moment, a tiny part of her had still been hoping this was messy, careless. Impulsive behavior that could somehow be explained away. But this suggested foresight, strategy, a plan that didn't include honesty. One source claims Tamar whispered, so she knew this would blow up before sitting down and putting her head in her hands. Whatever this was, it had been unfolding long before the bank alerts ever hit her phone. As the lawyers dug deeper, the situation reportedly spiraled into something darker. Metadata from digital receipts allegedly showed repeated logins from the same device, sometimes minutes apart, confirming purchases across different platforms. There was no confusion about who was clicking confirm. Even worse, one insider claims there were deleted emails recovered during the review, messages that referenced keeping it low and spacing charges out. Tamar allegedly stood up and walked out of the room again, this time slamming the door so hard a framed award fell off the wall. Behind the scenes, Towanda was not panicking the way everyone expected. According to people close to her, she was annoyed. Annoyed that Tamar had escalated. Annoyed that lawyers were involved. Annoyed that people were asking questions. She reportedly told a friend, "This is exactly why you can't do anything in this family without it being turned into a spectacle." That comment made its way back to Tamar within hours. The reaction was volcanic. Tamar allegedly screamed, "You turned my bank account into a spectacle." Social media was already circling like sharks. A vague tweet Tamar posted late that night sent fans into meltdown mode. It didn't name anyone. It didn't explain anything. It simply read, "Family will steal your peace faster than strangers steal your wallet." Screenshots spread instantly. Twitter Spaces popped up. TikTok creators started connecting dots that hadn't even been confirmed yet. And in the middle of it all, Towanda liked a post about people playing victim when they don't get their way. Fans caught it immediately. The screenshots went viral. That's when the alleged secret recordings entered the picture. A source claims Tamar had quietly started recording certain conversations weeks earlier. Not because she expected betrayal, but because she was tired of being gaslit. One recording, described as chilling, allegedly captures Towanda, joking about how Tamar never checks her statements anyway. Another includes a voice saying, "She's rich, she won't even notice." Tamar reportedly listened to the audio once, then handed it to her lawyer without saying a word. Emotionally, Tamar was unraveling. Friends say she stopped sleeping, stopped eating, replaying every memory where she had defended Towanda publicly. Every interview where she shut down rumors to protect the family image. One friend claims Tamar broke down crying, repeating, "I made people believe in us." That guilt hit her harder than the betrayal itself. She felt like she had sold a story of sisterhood that wasn't real. And now the truth was clawing its way out. The family pressure intensified. Calls came in urging mediation, forgiveness, silence. Tamar was told to think about legacy, about her mother, about the fans. One particularly explosive call allegedly came from someone Tamar loved deeply, who accused her of airing dirty laundry. Tamar reportedly snapped back, "You call it dirty laundry. I call it evidence." That call ended with screaming on both sides and a line going dead. Meanwhile, Towanda's camp allegedly began planting narratives. Bloggers were tipped off anonymously. Stories surfaced suggesting Tamar had authorized spending verbally. Old clips from reality TV were resurfaced to paint Tamar as unstable, impulsive, dramatic. Tamar saw it all. And instead of backing down, she doubled down. Sources say she instructed her lawyers to document every online claim, every interview, every insinuation. If this went to court, she wanted a timeline of lies. Then came the confrontation that insiders say sealed the fate of this relationship forever. Tamar and Towanda allegedly crossed paths unexpectedly at a private event. No cameras allowed, but plenty of witnesses. The tension was immediate. Tamar didn't yell. She didn't cry. She walked up and calmly said, "You could have asked." Towanda reportedly rolled her eyes and replied, "You're really doing this here?" That moment shattered something in Tamar. Witnesses say she laughed once, bitter and hollow, before saying, "No, I'm doing this everywhere." Within 48 hours, paperwork was finalized. The lawsuit wasn't a threat anymore. It was real, filed, stamped, ready. When Tamar was asked if she was scared of the fallout, one insider claims she said, "I've been living with fallout my whole life. This is just the first time I didn't clean it up." That quote leaked. It spread like wildfire. Fans rallied. Others criticized. The divide was brutal. As the story escalated, a new twist emerged that no one saw coming. A financial analyst close to the case allegedly discovered a second card linked to the same account. A card Tamar didn't recognize. A card she never requested. And when they traced where it had been sent, it wasn't Atlanta. It wasn't Miami. It was somewhere else entirely. Somewhere that suggested this situation might involve more than one person. When Tamar heard that, she reportedly went completely still. Then she asked one quiet question that made everyone in the room uneasy. Who else knew? The answer to that question cracked the story wide open. According to a source close to the investigation, second card had been active for months, quietly accumulating charges under a name Tamar never approved. Not a stranger. Not a random alias. Someone adjacent. Someone close enough to know Tamar's routines, her travel schedule, her blind spots. When the analyst laid out the timeline, it became clear this wasn't a one-person operation. It was a system. And Tamar was the last one to realize she was the center of it. Insiders say. Tamar felt physically ill as the pieces started snapping together. Dates overlapped with family gatherings. Purchases lined up with moments Tamar was distracted, on tour, filming, grieving, exhausted. This wasn't reckless. It was opportunistic. One charge stood out in particular, a payment tied to a storage facility. When investigators pulled the details, the unit had been rented using Tamar's card but listed under someone else's ID. What was inside? No one knew yet. But the idea that her money had been used to hide something sent Tamar spiraling. By now, the pressure was unbearable. Tamar reportedly broke down in her kitchen, sobbing uncontrollably, asking over and over how things had gotten this far. Friends say she blamed herself for years of overgiving, for confusing generosity with love, for ignoring red flags because she wanted peace. "I built this monster," she allegedly cried. But even in that moment of collapse, something hardened. The tears stopped. Her voice changed. And she made a decision that stunned everyone around her. She authorized her legal team to expand the case, not just reimbursement, not just fraud, emotional distress, conspiracy, intent. Every charge reclassified, every communication preserved, every possible angle explored. Sources say the lawyers warned her this would permanently fracture the family. Tamar's response was cold and final. "It was already broken. I just stopped holding it together." That sentence alone reportedly made its way through multiple offices before landing on a blogger's inbox. Once it leaked, the internet went feral. Twitter erupted into chaos. Old interviews were dissected frame by frame. Fans noticed moments Tamar had laughed through discomfort, defended behavior that now looked suspicious. TikTok creators ran timelines like true crime documentaries. Viral clips accused unnamed family members of financial abuse. Others dragged Tamar for doing too much. The comments were vicious. But for every critic, there were thousands praising her for choosing herself. The divide became cultural, not just celebrity, behind the scenes. Towanda allegedly realized the narrative was slipping out of her control. According to someone in her circle, she tried to reach Tamar repeatedly, leaving voicemails that went unanswered. One message, described as desperate and angry, reportedly said, "You're destroying everything." Tamar never responded. Instead, she handed the voicemails to her attorney. Silence became her loudest weapon. Then came the most explosive leak yet. A document allegedly surfaced showing that the second card had been used to cover expenses for someone Tamar had publicly fallen out with years ago. A name fans hadn't connected to the family in a long time. The implications were nuclear. If true, it meant Tamar's money had been used to support someone she had intentionally cut off. Someone who had no right to access her life, let alone her finances. When that detail hit the blogs, the tone shifted from gossip to outrage. Industry insiders started whispering that this could turn criminal if intent was proven. Suddenly, people who had stayed silent began distancing themselves. Invitations were rescinded. Calls went unanswered. Tamar watched in real time as alliances shifted, not because they believed her, but because they were afraid of being next. One source claims Tamar laughed when she noticed. "Funny how quiet gets loud when lawyers show up," she allegedly said. Emotionally, she was exhausted but resolute. Friends say she stopped explaining herself. She stopped defending her choices. She let the paperwork speak. One night, alone in her house, Tamar reportedly played back old voice notes she'd recorded over the years, reminders to herself to stay strong, to trust carefully, to love without losing herself. One note ended with her saying, "One day I'm gonna choose me." That day had come, and it didn't look peaceful. It looked like war. As the case gained momentum, a final confrontation loomed. Not in person. Not on the phone. Through attorneys. Towanda's legal team allegedly proposed a settlement attempt, including partial repayment and a confidentiality clause. Tamar read it and slid it back across the table. Her answer was a single word: no. According to those present, she added, "I won't be paid to be quiet ever again. I won't be paid to be quiet ever again." That refusal sent shockwaves, because without a settlement, discovery would begin. Bank records, texts, emails, everything, not just Towanda's finances, but anyone connected to the accounts, anyone who benefited, anyone who knew. Suddenly, the silence from other family members looked less like neutrality and more like fear. The night before the filing became public, Tamar allegedly posted one last message to her private notes app. It wasn't for fans. It wasn't for press. It was for herself. "If loving me costs you access to me, so be it." She closed the app, turned off her phone, went to sleep knowing there was no turning back. By morning, the documents were out. Names redacted. Amounts listed. Patterns undeniable. The story exploded beyond celebrity news into mainstream conversation about boundaries, betrayal, and the cost of being the family provider. Tamar didn't do interviews. She didn't go live. She let the storm rage without her commentary, but just when it seemed like everything had already been exposed. A final detail surfaced quietly, almost overlooked: a timestamp on one of the earliest charges. A date that placed the first unauthorized swipe before Tamar and Towanda had supposedly reconciled. Before the hugs. Before the therapy. Before the promises. Which means one thing. This didn't start with, betrayal. It started with deception. If you're still here right now, don't scroll. Don't blink. Because stories like this don't just end, they explode. And the people who miss the next chapter always regret it. This isn't just messy celebrity drama. This is about betrayal, hiding behind blood, silence pretending to be loyalty. And what happens when someone finally refuses to be used ever again? And whether you love Tamar, question her, or feel personally triggered by this situation. One thing is undeniable. This story hit a nerve for a reason, so now it's your turn. Do you think Tamar went too far, or not far enough? Was this about money? Or about years of manipulation finally catching up? And what does it say when family expects you to stay quiet no matter the cost to your peace? The comments are already on fire, but your voice belongs in this conversation too. Say what everyone else is scared to say. And listen closely if you don't hit that like button right now. This algorithm will bury stories like this, and the next update will pass you by. Subscribing isn't optional if you want the real-time fallout. The leaked updates, the twists nobody sees coming until it's too late. Turn on notifications because when the next receipt drops, when another name surfaces. When silence finally breaks, you don't want to hear about it secondhand. This channel doesn't play safe. We follow the paper trail, the emotional wreckage, and the truths people try to hide. So lock in, engage, stay loud. Because the next chapter of this saga is already unfolding, and missing it means missing everything. Everything.